Hello, thanks so much for joining me for this episode of the Leukopak Lady. Today I'm going to talk about why current Leukopak specifications that look reasonable and consistent on paper can fail in real manufacturing environments. If you've ever received a Leukopak that met your specifications but still had a bad manufacturing run, this episode is for you, because the root of manufacturing problems usually is not that the Leukopak was out of spec, it's that the spec never described what was actually needed to achieve manufacturing success. So what are Leukopak specifications supposed to do? Define material that will perform well in manufacturing, protect against manufacturing variability, enable reproducibility in clinical outcomes, and support regulatory confidence. Specs are meant to translate biology into something operational. And yet, despite good intentions, most current Leukopak specifications fail to deliver on these goals. Specs fail to deliver first by being overly broad. Ranges are set wide enough to be practical and guarantee that all products meet them, but wide specs hide variability instead of controlling for it. Next, superficial quality metrics are over-prioritized. Cell counts are elevated over ideal composition and functional fitness. And meeting the minimum cell count is a false success metric. Third, static specs ignore dynamic biology. Donor biology changes, and scaling programs have changing needs. Specs that don't evolve eventually stop having value. And when that happens, they stop protecting manufacturing, even though the Leukopaks still appear compliant. So let's go back to hero batches and how they're a trap. Hero batches happen when starting material comes from donors with exceptional biology compared to donors from other batches produced. And as I discussed last week, building programs around hero batches without understanding why they work so well masks product weaknesses and becomes a major stumbling for scaling programs. Because those batches can't be reliably reproduced across donors, centers, or time. So what's the source of this problem? Why do Leukopak specifications fail to properly define the input required for manufacturing? Most of the time, specifications for incoming starting material are never defined by the scientific or manufacturing teams, so programs are at the mercy of whatever the collection centers provide to them. And if they are defined, it's often done too early and without the aid of donor or process data. Collection centers are not standardized, so Leukopaks from one center may be vastly different from another, which is a failure of the system that has taken so long to define specifications and demand consistent inputs. And programs are thinking about short-term approvals and early trial success, not long-term therapy sustainability and therapeutic consistency. So if there were better Leukopak specifications, what would they look like? Cell count ranges would be tighter and set with a purpose. Additional metrics like composition and cell function would be included, and program-specific specs would be prioritized so that one program didn't have to accept another program's parameters. And of course, the collection centers would be able to collect the products to each program's required specifications. And there would be a clear correlation between Leukopak specs and manufacturing performance to be used as true quality metrics. Good specs don't eliminate variability, they make it predictable. And once you accept that current specifications aren't enough, because biology is more complex than we admit, the next question is, who actually owns the specs and the consequences when they fail? And I'll address this again in Season 3. So come back for the next episode on standardization versus control in CSM.